It's kind of like the civil war of Spider-Man. Hello there, welcome to Where's the Remote, and today's video I'm going to give my review of Spider-Man No Way Home. So I've just come back from the cinema watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm going to give you the full details of how I thought about the movie and the rating. Before we do that, if any of you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more movie reviews and videos, reactions and more. And drop a like down below if you enjoyed this review. Let's get into this. First off, I'm going to start with a no spoiler review, and then I'll get into the spoilers later on in the video, and I'll put the timestamps down below so you can know whether you want to see the spoiler-free version or a spoiler-filled version. But let's start with the spoiler-free version. So the movie was really good. It was really, really good. I think it was definitely in my top 3 Spider-Man movies of all time. And I didn't like Spider-Man Homecoming. I did like Far From Home. That surprised me. But this one, this Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, smashes all of them out of the park completely. From the very beginning, it's very interesting, and you kind of go through kind of what they showed in the trailer. It starts off around like Peter Parker's life, how it's changed. Now everyone knows that he's Spider-Man, and then Doctor Strange does the spell, and then that's when, in fact, things change quite quickly. And it kind of moves at the pace that you'd expect to do based on the latest trailer that came out. And the movie for me was just enjoyable from the whole way throughout. From the part that's focusing on Spider-Man's life and how it's changed, to how when things get more complex and towards the end battle, it was really enjoyable throughout the whole thing. I think they did Tom Holland's Spider-Man storyline great justice, and overall the film was really good. If I had to rank the Spider-Man movies, I'd say probably Spider-Man 2 would be number 1. Number 2, I'd probably say Spider-Man 3, and then the third one would be No Way Home for me. And I think it's very, very close between second and third, but the third one for me, Spider-Man, just because it had great action scenes and a decentish story and loads of memes in it, that makes it my second pick. But this movie is really, really good. Definitely watch it, enjoy it. You'll really enjoy it. So now we'll get into the spoiler-filled section of my review, which I've been waiting to do. So like I said, the movie starts off with Spider-Man and his whole thing being messed up by everyone knowing his secret identity. And then Strange does the spell, and while Strange is doing the spell, Spider-Man messes up, just like you saw in the trailer. Pretty much soon after that, Spider-Man comes across Dr. Octopus. They have a really cool battle on the bridge that you saw, and you only saw a little bit of it in the trailer. But they have a battle where they're almost on even ground, because Spider-Man's in his Iron Man Spider-Man suit. He's battling his tentacles with the tentacles that come out of his suit. So they're pretty evenly matched, and he's probably one of the best Spider-Mans to fight him because he has that advantage. And then the fight goes really well, and he finds out he's not Peter. And then throughout the rest of the movie, it goes through where basically Spider-Man ends up capturing the rest of the villains. So yeah, Octopus appears, then Electro and Sandman appear, then Green Goblin appears, but he appears in the Norman Osborn form, and then Spider-Man captures him, and Doctor Strange actually ends up capturing the Lizard. Spider-Man doesn't capture him, and Strange captures him. And it was a really, really interesting idea, because whereas the other Spider-Man, like Andrew Garfield and Tobey's Spider-Man, they in all their movies, they fight the villain. Most time the villain ends up dying, or no longer becomes a threat. But in this movie, when Spider-Man learns their fate, that they all die fighting the Spider-Mans, most of them die, he tries to give them a second chance and cures them, and it actually starts working. But then things break out, things break loose, and Norman Osborn's Green Goblin persona comes back, and it just flips everything on its head. And the thing that it was quite sad, but what I really enjoyed was that Norman Osborn's Green Goblin was destroying Tom Holland's Spider-Man the first time they fought. And it was very similar to how when he fought Tobey's Spider-Man, and when they fought at the end of Spider-Man 1, and he was battering him for most of the fight, it was very similar to that. Like he was just ragdolling him, picking him up, throwing him through buildings, just completely overpowering him, which I thought was brilliant because I thought, well, Green Goblin has strength similar to, if not a little bit stronger than Spider-Man based on the movies, and he was decking Tom Holland, and he took a lot from him. He kind of almost broke him, and then the Spider-Man show up. So just like everyone expected, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man shows up, and when I was in the cinema, the applause was louder for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man than it was for Tobey Maguire's. And I think a reason behind that was that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man came out first. But from the people I've spoken to, everyone really loved and appreciated Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man portrayal. I think he did a great job with the acting and portrayal of Spider-Man. It's just a shame that his movies weren't as great as some of the others, but him as Spider-Man was an excellent choice. And then Tobey comes in as well, and he actually he makes a reference later in the movie to his back, and he's saying, "Oh, my back."
My back. Oh, my back.
Just like in Spider-Man 2 and also the famous memes. And even William Dafoe actually does a reference where he says, "You know what, I'm somewhat of a scientist myself," and only a couple of people in the cinema clicked that meme reference.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
But the movie was really good, and then they end up having, a kind of like a one-to-one with Spider-Man, because when Green Goblin shows up and after he batters Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he kills Aunt May. She gets hit by his glider and she dies, and that puts Tom Holland's Spider-Man on an eventual, but also quite a sad but depressing path. And then there was an awesome moment where all three of the Spider-Mans console Tom Holland, and they all talk about what they've been through. And Andrew Garfield talks about how he lost Gwen, and then Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man talks about how he lost Ben Parker, and they all kind of console. And it was really cool. And at the end they have one big battle where it's all three Spider-Mans versing all the villains, but rather than just battering them or trying to destroy them like they have in previous films, they're all trying to cure the villains. So it ends quite wholesomely actually. They cure all of the villains, and then Green Goblin is the last one left, and Green Goblin is 1v1 against Tom Holland, and Tom Holland wants to kill him because of what he did to Aunt May. And then he gets to the point where he's about to kill him, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man steps in and stops him from killing him. But in the end they end up curing the Green Goblin. And yeah, I mean, it was really good. The CGI, the effects, the fight scenes, the story was really, really good. And there was, of course, a scene at the end where practically the multiverse starts breaking apart, and then you see Rhino and you see other Spider-Man villains who actually haven't appeared in the movies yet about to come into the universe because the multiverse was breaking up. And the only way to fix it was to erase everyone's memory of Peter Parker ever existed, which means obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man loses memory, well, his friends lose memory of his existence. And at the end, there was a very interesting part where he goes to meet his friends to try and reintroduce himself and try and become friends with them again. But he decides not to, and it's clear that he decides not to because he comes to the conclusion that essentially they were better off without him. And I actually kind of like that idea. I like the idea of it because clearly they were. I mean, they were put in harm's way by his actions, and also just want to be general good friends to him. There were always going to be an element of risk and harm for them. And it came here to him because he was about to tell MJ, and then he noticed that she had a plaster on her head where she'd been cut from the final battle. So he decides to leave them and walk the path alone, which is very Spider-Man. That's very Spider-Man-like. And that was something that I really appreciate of Tobey's Spider-Man, and even Andrew Garfield sometimes, where they would literally take it all on their own. Sometimes have a little bit of help, but Spider-Man's the kind of hero where he's strong enough, smart enough, powerful enough to deal with big threats on his own, and he does, but also make decisions on his own, and he did. So it was really, really good. Excellent movie, by far the best out of all the Tom Holland movies. It's kind of like the Civil War of Spider-Man, but instead of having crossovers from like different heroes, which they do, there's strangers in it, they had crossovers from multiple Spider-Mans. One of the scenes, there was a fan theory, like a leak image. It was a genuine leak. Daredevil is in the movie. It's Daredevil from the Netflix series, and that scene was awesome. Like, it was very Daredevil. As a part where someone throws something through the window and he just grabs it with his reflexes, and they're all like, "How are you doing that?" Because he's blind. He's like, "Well, I'm a very good lawyer." But it's that was pretty awesome. There's some really good cameos in there. It was really well put together. It was just overall a great movie, I think. Great Spider-Man movie. Definitely in the top 3 Spider-Man movies of all time. Tobey Maguire's portrayal, they did great. Andrew Garfield's, they did really great, and Tom Holland as well did a really good job in the movie as well. So really enjoyable. Really enjoyed the movie. I'm glad I watched it the day that it's come out. But I definitely recommend that you guys go out and watch it yourselves, because it is a great movie. So that's my review, Spider-Man No Way Home. So let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Let me know if you're going to see Spider-Man No Way Home, and what is your favourite Spider-Man movie? I'd also like to know in the comment section too. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next video.